It's the call up, and we have the Dodgers farm system on this wonderful Monday. Jack McMullen, Aram Layton. Jack, this is a loaded system. It's going to be one of those where we're cutting it tight for an hour to try to talk about all these guys as much as we should, but we're trying to keep it under an hour, and the Dodgers might be one of our biggest challenges.
Dodgers are so good at this. They're so freaking good at this. I mean, they have been forever, right? You talk about the massive payroll and going to get the big guys, right? When they paid Trevor Bauer like $45 million a year to keep him, and then they just handed Clayton Kershaw $17 million. Like, they can go hand out the big contract, they can go eat the money, and they can go pay the luxury tax penalty. But the reality is, the Dodgers are one of the best teams in baseball at developing their own talent. You look at Walker Buehler, you look at Julio Urias. Farther along on the mound, you look at Dustin May, you look at Tony Gonzalez. Like, they've got guys, and then you go to the sticks and you see Will Smith, you see Cody Bellinger, you see, the list keeps going. The Dodgers are just so good at this, and they've got more guys.
I always say with the Dodgers, because people are always like, oh, they could just spend and get whoever they want. And I'm like, don't be mistaken. They could trade and get whoever they want. And
Correct.
that's the craziest part is they could go, you throw in one or two big league guys, Gavin Lux or whoever, and then you throw in your prospects. They could go get almost any attainable player that they want. And that's why I think even Matt Olson is a possibility, because they could do that with their system still being top 10.
Exactly. They just got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner in the same exact deal, and they're still comfortably within the top 7, top 8 farm systems in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way of putting it, right? And they gave up good prospects. They gave up a guy that was pretty much in the big leagues already with Josiah Gray, and then they gave up Keibert Ruiz. And I mean, with those two guys still in this system makes it comfortably top 3. Instead, we see it drop a little bit off. But I mean, this is still probably one of the best systems in baseball. And especially the guys at the top, I really like the arms that they've been able to accumulate. They always do that. The bats are really exciting as well. And it's a good balance. I think you look at some of these other systems, you'll get Cleveland Guardians. When we talk about them, there's a trend you see throughout that system, especially with the position players, which is middle infielders who have bat to ball skills, who then, either have this off the charts makeup that is tangible that you see a lot of people talking about, and just instincts for the game. You see that through almost all of their middle infielders. That's the trend. You look at the Orioles, they've got a lot of bat to ball guys as well, that they're trying to develop the power with. You look at the Dodgers, a lot of different kinds of prospects, and they just kind of go out and get the guys they like, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, it works perfectly. And the Dodgers have a lot of flexibility right now. They've got some studs in this system as well. It starts at the top with guys like Bobby Miller and Miguel Vargas. And then you see it in numbers like 25 through 45. Mm-hmm. They've got, 40 good prospects who could be big leaguers. And there are guys that are not sniffing this top 10 that could still break in and be at least platoon guys at the major league level.
That's the craziest part, right? Like, we're going to talk about the Ryan Nodas of the world, and there's a lot of other prospects that are really interesting in that context. It's just absurd how deep they are. So let's get into it. I'm going to start at the top, but you see a lot of different, I would say there's a lot of different perspectives on who the top prospects are in this Dodger system. But for me, I think it's pretty cut and dry. I love Bobby Miller as the number one guy. And for a little bit of, background on this, because we're going to approach it similarly to how we did it with, who was it that we did the update with? Was it the Guardians? No, that was a new one. Who do we update?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. We updated Kansas City. So we're going to do a similar approach to where we're going to update this Dodgers top prospect list, because this was written towards the end of last season. Not as much to change because it was, I think, towards the end, but there are some adjustments I want to make now that we've done a little bit more digging on some of the other names. And there's some other guys that might push their way into the top 10, especially after some interesting Arizona Fall League performances. But with Bobby Miller, I just don't see how you could really put anybody else ahead of him. I mean, I guess you could make the case for Diego Cartaya as a young catcher. You could probably make the case for a couple other guys. I love Vargas as well, but I don't think that many people are making the case for him as the top guy in this system. You could maybe see some people who are really excited about Andy Pages and what he did as just a 20-year-old, 21-year-old in high A power-wise as a reason to have him way up there. But Bobby Miller is just looking like the next coming of Walker Buehler for this Dodgers organization. And look, I know they don't stretch their guys out. I know we need to see Bobby Miller go deeper into starts, but the stuff is just so legit. The profile is great, and the command is a lot further along than I think a lot of people thought it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get any farther with pitchers, let's address what you just said. Dodgers do not stretch their arms out until they get to AAA. Bobby Miller, when he was in high A this year and a little bit of AA at the back end, got into the fifth inning twice. He threw more than 70 pitches in an outing twice. And that is long. That's not a knock on Bobby. That's long for a Dodger farmhand on the mound. I saw Clayton Beater throw. I saw Landon Knack throw. And these guys were not going more than like 2 1/3 innings of work. Like if you got into the third inning, you were guaranteeing that you were reading, this is a call to the bullpen ad read when you're seeing the Great Lakes Loons, right?
Yeah.
So Bobby Miller, here's the thing. He gets to the fifth inning with like 55 pitches.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
That's the thing. You say the command, right? And you've got a 45 grade on command right now. I'd uptick that by 5. I'd say he's got a 50 command with the possibility of 55 or 60 with the future value, because he's only hovering around a 5% walk rate.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right, honestly. And like, these are some of the small tweaks we're going to make as well. It's not just changing the rankings. It's like slight tweaks to the grades. And like, for full disclosure, when we make these top prospect lists, there's definitely areas where I could have been 5. I don't even know what to call it. It's not like 5 points. What would you call it in that context? Like,
I would just be super vague around the units. Like I might have been 5 off. I might have been 10
yeah.
off.
You just got to just say 5. Just
you remember
5.
the iCarly episode where it's like, how long is this going to take? And it's like, I don't know, 3, 4.
Yeah, 3, 4, what? Yeah, because that was in school. We were taught like assign, a unit to everything. Yes. But again, we undermine a lot of the things that we learn in school. So I think we could have went up 5. And I think the future value could even be plus in terms of the command. And that's the thing, is sometimes I get a chance to circle back and dig more into specific pitchers. And Bobby Miller was one of those where, when I did this write-up, and I always like to be like fully transparent about how much I was able to see of each guy. And when I did this write-up, I definitely watched a good deal, but recently kind of went back and watched full starts top to bottom with Miller. And what I realized is, that command's further along. And the reason why, the thing that really stood out to me, is that he has the 4-seamer, Jack, and then he has the 2-seamer. And the 2-seamer really allows him to pitch to contact. So if the secondaries aren't carving dudes up the way he sometimes can, because the slider is nasty, the changeup is really good when he's got a feel for it, and then he can be more of that pitch to contact, get ground balls guy, and it works for him. And he goes 2-seamer slider and can really ride those 2 pitches to success. That's the cool thing, is you can get multiple Bobby Millers. There's a Bobby Miller that's going to go 4-seamer up, change up, down, and mix in the slider and 2-seamer whenever. Or you can get the Bobby Miller that's just a lot of 2-seamer slider and get a lot of ground balls and quickly go deep into starts. And that reminds me a lot of Sandy Alcantara. I really think that there's a lot of similarities there between these two guys, arsenal-wise, build-wise, 6'5", 220. And honestly, Miller's further along than Alcantara was at this stage in terms of their development. Age-wise, probably pretty similar.
Yeah. You look at Bobby Miller, and this dude is beefier than hell. I mean, he's a big boy now. His thighs, you can see it with the way that his pants fit. It's very Walker Buehler, but maybe bigger legs here. I got to see both of Bobby Millers. I got to see both versions, right? I got to see the strikeout Bobby Miller, and then I got to see that 2-seamer slider, let's get a bunch of ground balls Bobby Miller. The K rate overall, not as high as you would expect with the raw stuff, but that's because he went to let's work deep, because I know I only get like 60 bullets in my barrel today. So let's get deep into the game. We saw that a lot more than strikeout Bobby Miller, but seeing strikeout Bobby Miller, it's sitting 98, maybe getting up to 99 with a letter high fastball that runs. And then you drop that wicked slider. And I saw the changeup on there too. And that changeup matched with that high 4-seam fastball and the running 2-seam fastball is stupid. If he develops a consistent feel for the changeup, that surpasses the slider. And that's one of the best changeups in baseball 5 years down the road.
I'm with you, dude. I don't know what I try not to look too much at all the other grades, just because you got all these different approaches and all these different things. I'm always intrigued by it. I'm always interested in the rankings, but I'm never looking at, what do they have on his changeup? Because I like to try to take my own personal approach to it. But what's interesting is now when I'm looking at it just before we hop into this, it seems like everybody is looking at the slider as the best pitch, which is understandable. But that changeup, it's way further along than I thought it would be. The results are there too. If you look at it statistically, he has the four seamer. The thing that always concerns me is, okay, you have a two seamer and you have a changeup. Like, good luck separating those two.
They look the same,
kind of
right?
Work the same. And people might say, oh, that's good. No, not necessarily, because you can kind of shut down anything elevated in the zone. Everything's breaking downwards or tailing downwards. He's got the four seamer, he's got the two seamer, and then has that changeup. I think that changeup is going to continue to play up because of the effectiveness of his four seamer up in the zone. He has the two seamer, which complements the slider. He almost has this perfect arsenal, and he even mixes in that slower curveball to steal strikes. That's why I see the Sandy Alcantara. You don't see arsenals that complement each other that well, or I guess complements itself that well and is that deep. The build is there. The frame is there. I think the reason why we see, I guess, prospect outlets, I never know what to call them. Like, I think the reason why we see a lot of them a little bit lower on him, he's more in the 50 to 60 range for most, besides Baseball America, who has him at 38, which is around where we're going to have him, is just because we haven't seen him stretched out. But again, we haven't seen him stretched out just because that's the way the Dodgers do it. He could be stretched out, no problem at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy. I think Bobby Miller is a possible frontline guy, and adding another frontline guy to this rotation that has Buehler and Arias for the foreseeable future and Clayton Kershaw for one more year. And then after Kershaw is done with his 1-year deal, he'll probably sign another, but you get Dustin May back from Tommy John.
Yeah.
Like, this rotation is going to have the reinforcements there very, very soon. And it's going to be really good for the next however many years.
I'm really interested to see what his timeline looks like, right? Because that's the thing with the Dodgers. The timelines are always interesting because of the way they prepare their pitchers for being legitimate starters and having starters workloads. But looking at the number 2 spot now, Jack, I think this is where it gets interesting, because I would argue that probably the consensus would be Diego Cartaya at number 2. I love Cartaya. Right now, we have him checking in at number 3 in our top 10. My thing with Cortaya is he's just so far off. I think he was pulling the ball about 58, 60% of the time. There's some major holes in his approach that I think could get exposed. That doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be good. It just means there's a wider range of outcomes for him. We have Miguel Vargas at 2, and that's a guy that I really pitched to you on the Just Baseball show, ironically, pretty recently, about a dude that I just think is still just somebody that does not get enough love. I think, he's comfortably a top 100 prospect, but no matter who you ask. But I mean, Vargas is just a well-balanced hitter. We have 55, 60 future on the hit tool, 55 raw power, 50 to 55 game power. He's an average runner. He's an average defender. He doesn't strike out. He hits the ball for pop now. And he's just, to me, is a can't miss as it gets with an offensive profile.
He just hits. Like, he absolutely just hits. He's a fresh 22 years old, just turned 22 in December, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
The only stop he's had with a WRC plus under 110 was like a 20-game stretch. And so this guy, every spot he's at is just hitting, and he's getting on base, and he's hitting the ball into gaps. Sometimes he's hitting the ball over the wall. He's doing that more so this year. And you look at a guy who had a decent amount of pop this year, but also had a 23-game hit streak at one point. Overall, He hit 320 with an OPS over 900 across high A and double A. He just hits every stop he's at. And with Cortaya, you look at him, yes, 10 bombs in 31 games. This sample size is just way, way, way bigger for Miguel Vargas, and you struggle to pick out the weaknesses there. Cortaya is so young, so obviously he has weaknesses that you can point to and say, yes, right there. With Vargas, it's like, okay, where are they? And oh, by the way, you're only 22 still.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's only 22, and he's already way ahead of schedule. As a 21-year-old last season, to get up to double A after not playing in 2020, I think is incredibly impressive. And the numbers in double A, I mean, he goes up from high A to double A, and they were exactly the same. If anything, they were better. His walk rate jumped by 4%, actually almost 5%. His strikeout rate dropped by 3%. and he put up pretty much the same numbers across the board, 321, 386, 523 slash line in Double-A with 16 home runs in 83 games. I mean, Vargas isn't a guy that's going to hit the ball 500 feet. He's the kind of guy that is kind of line drives everywhere, started to generate a much better feel to backspin the baseball. And now we're seeing that lift come into the equation. It's above average raw power still, but the feel to hit is what really allows him to tap into more power. I think he's 20 to 25, could push 30 home runs, when he's really locked in there, but he's going to be able to flirt with 300. He's going to walk a decent amount, and he's not going to strike out. And that's why I think he's as high of a floor prospect you're going to find, not only in the Dodger system, but in the minor leagues with that bat. The glove is good enough at third. I think, if you have to move him to first, he could do that. The bat would accommodate that. He could probably even accommodate a corner outfield move as well. But I think he's more than fine at the hot corner and could be the next guy up when it's all said and done with Justin Turner. So I think this guy's a big part of the future plans for the Dodgers, and another dude that just has developed really nicely and has turned into a really solid prospect. And another guy that wasn't a really expensive IFA guy, $300,000 in 2017. I can't emphasize enough how much I like playing the percentages with the two $300,000 guys, then going all in on the $5 million guy. And this is just another great example of that.
Yeah, well, the Dodgers can do both because they have a lot of money. So they can go get a Miguel Vargas, who is that lottery ticket at $300,000. And $300,000 is like, you're getting a really skilled player. You see a lot of guys that sign for about $20,000 to $30,000, and those are the real lottery tickets that might be so far off, but maybe they develop into something. It's diamonds in the rough. Like, think of it as like a 25th round pick or a 30th round pick. When you pay, a little less than $500,000 for a guy, think of it like a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick. Wouldn't you rather have 5 4th round picks than 1 1st round pick and don't pick again until the 15th round?
Yes.
But the Dodgers can do both. And they signed Diego Cartaya for a lot of money.
Oh yeah. And that's who we'll move on to next. The last thing I'll say on Vargas, against fastballs 307, breaking balls 323, changeups 327. That's all you need to. That's all you need to know there. The guy just freaking hits. Diego Cortaya is another guy though that I think people really like. There is an impact. I don't care what any of these prospect analysts say, and I catch myself in it a little bit too, and I try to be really honest about it. And that's why I don't like to look at the IFA amounts until I'm filling in their information afterwards, after I do the whole write-up. I generally don't like to know the international free agency amount. Usually I'll know what round they were picked in, but a lot of times I won't know the exact dollar amount of the IFA signing. He was a $2.5 million guy, and that typically gives guys a little bit more more of a survival rate, I think, when it comes to, or a longer duration of survival when it comes to their prospect rankings. We see guys just much, I would say, slower to be dropped when we see struggles from these multi-million-dollar international free agents. Not the case with Cortaya because he's been great so far, but I feel like it's also a confirmation bias when guys like Cortaya perform, like, boom, that's why he was a $2.5 million guy. And, I think Cortaya has a lot of things going for him, no doubt about it. He is really polished behind the dish in terms of his way of ability to handle and call a game, his defensive ability. The offensive upside is huge. He's got potentially plus raw power. We've already seen him tap into it with the 10 home runs in 30 something games, like you said, but there's some major holes in his swing that I know will be exposed in high A. And that's what I'm a little bit nervous to eventually see. Cortaya was banged up, missed a lot of time last year, which I think we would have ended up seeing that. But when it's all said and done, Cortaya could end up being one of the better catching prospects in baseball very soon. He's just got to iron out some things offensively, which I'll get into. But I mean, the upside here is crazy.
When you say teams are slower to hop off of their high, a high dollar amount free agent signings in international free agency, who were you talking to? Who were you subtweeting? Because when you were saying that stuff, I was thinking about 2 guys. I was thinking about Yasel Antuna with the Nationals. And I was thinking about Victor Mesa with the Marlins.
Victor, bro. Oh God, was that a whiff? He's swinging it right now at camp. Actually, I might go see him later today.
Right.
Yeah, really excited. Yeah, I mean, and even like just the pre-playing hype. We see with like Jason Dominguez, where the guy hasn't played yet, and there's this major hype when a big team spends big money. Yeah, Victor's a big one, a big one, because I had up until midway through last year, Marlins fans still pushing back on my assessment of him. And I'm like, I'm just telling you what it is. Like, there's nothing else in there. There's a few other guys that I could probably come up with off the top of my head, but yeah, there's just so many of those IFA guys. It's such a crapshoot. Cortaya, I don't think is going to be that problem because he is a really polished. Most of those IFA guys are tools ahead of polish. When it comes to the defensive side of things, Cortaya is way further along than I think anybody would expect from a teenage, now 20-year-old catching prospect. Offensively, he is pull side everything, leaks out, looking to try to crush everything middle in. And when he gets the hard slider, he is off of that, right? Like, he is yanking off of it. It is under his barrel, or he is out and around it. The numbers against the slider were not good, and they're going to be bad in high A. I think he's going to see a lot more sliders and elevated heaters, and he's going to have to work through that. We saw the power with the 10 home runs in not that many games. We saw the defensive ability. The upside is there, but I think people are a little bit too excited about the timeline. He's not going to be up there by 2023. It's going to be 2024 at the earliest. But I mean, again, this guy could be all around really special.
And he looks like a big league catcher. He's 6'3", 220 already. And he's a young 20-year-old. Like, that's what you're getting with Cortaya. He's going to come up. He's going to look like a major league catcher. And there is a strong possibility that if he irons out the weaknesses in his swing, he will become a top 10 catcher in baseball pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I'm really excited to see this. That's one of those guys that just not enough sample size, as you mentioned. We see him this year. Like, his upside's higher than Miguel Vargas, right? But he also has not proven a fraction of what Miguel Vargas has proven now in the upper levels.
Much lower floor.
Exactly. And that's what comes into prospect rankings. Like, that's prospect rankings in a nutshell. Balancing ceiling versus floor. And how do you rank these two guys against each other? I think you got to go Vargas ahead of him, because Vargas just, you're getting a big leaguer at this point. Cortaya could never figure out how to hit the slider and could never figure out how to use the whole field. And maybe that never gets up there. I would not bet on that, but that's just kind of an example of why I think these guys are a little bit just in different spots here. So far, would you kind of agree with that 1, 2, 3 still?
Yes. Miller, Vargas, Cortaya. Yes, I do.
So then that comes in at 4 here at Andy Pages, who you saw a good bit of, right? I remember texting you about him and being like, what's your thoughts on this guy? And you're like, I haven't seen much yet. Like, we'll see. And then I think you texted me a few weeks later, you got another series of him, and you're like, he's for real. This guy can play. Can you talk about what kind of happened there for you to have that shift?
He's clean. Like, he is a game works slow for him as a 21-year-old. And you have him listed at 6'1", 212. He's heavier than 212.
Yeah,
sure.
He definitely
he's got beef on there. It's muscle, it's bulk. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything on Pages right now. He still moves relatively well.
He's pretty fast.
He's pretty fast. He looks a lot like Jock Peterson, where it's like, you shouldn't be as good a defender as you are, but you are a really good defender. Like, that's what Pages is. I saw him play a little bit of center field. He's not a center fielder. He's a right or left fielder, but he's going to be a really good corner outfielder. And the pop that this guy has, you have 55 of the 60 future value on raw power. And I think that's spot on. I think you could even go 60 to 65.
I think
because this guy
could be.
Yeah, right. As a corner outfielder, he's got the juice. I think if he sells out for a little bit more power, he's there. Hit a lot more doubles than I was expecting him to this year. But the reality is, this guy, I saw him put so many good swings on baseballs, and I didn't see many bad swings. And as a 20-year-old in high A, that's super impressive.
Yeah. And again, no 2020. That's a guy that hadn't played above rookie ball. So he skips the whole low A show, goes straight to high A, and was good. I mean, you can talk about the K rate. I don't really care about it because one, I actually don't even think it was that high, given how much you walked.
It's fine.
It's fine when you're hitting 31 jacks, and that's a team that, or I guess that's a guy that when you're game planning for that high A team, especially when Vargas was gone, I mean, Pages is the guy you're game planning for, right? That's the guy you're saying, okay, we're not giving him a heater. We're going to go to him with this or that or whatever. So he already started to see more junk as the season went on. And what's crazy is actually his discipline got better and better as the season went on. He became a guy that actually didn't chase as much. The K rate steadily decreased, and the zone contact percentage is actually above average, which I wouldn't expect from a guy that, like you said, sells out on occasion. We see him sell out. But I think the fact that he is still able to make the amount of contact that he does shows that he is starting to learn that he can pick the right spots to sell out. He demolishes fastballs. He stays back on breaking balls well enough. The body control is there. He's a good athlete that I think you can see that athleticism in the box. And if I'm not mistaken, another guy that wasn't a very expensive international free agent, I think he was another $300,000 guy. Yes, so talk about playing the percentages. 31 home runs, 265, 395, 539 slash line. The one thing I do want to see though, is I could see that aggressive. He's somewhat aggressive. You think it's masked at times when you're in a high A and guys don't have great command. I'm curious to see what the walk rate looks like in double A. I mean, we've seen guys with 12, 13, 14% walk rates in high A have that thing cut in half real quick. So I want to see him be patient. I want to see what that approach looks like. But overall, I mean, the power is legit. And when he gets a hold of it, it's crazy. And he lifts the ball. He's looking to put it in the air, which I'm cool with. I'm totally cool with that. He's not a guy that's going to roll over very often.
100%. And listen, regardless of what the walk rate looks like in double A, in high A, an 130-point jump in OBP from batting average is an 130-point jump. Like, that is very impressive. That shows that you are mature beyond your years if you're doing that as a 20-year-old in high A. And that's what Pages was doing. You see a lot of bad pitches in high A. A lot of guys swing at bad pitches. Pages was not necessarily swinging at bad pitches. And the amount of times that I saw him go and meet the best fastball from a pitcher and absolutely drill it was so often. You said he demolishes fastballs. I don't know the velo numbers. I guarantee you this guy has zero issue with velo.
No, zero, none. Because he doesn't move. He's another one of those guys. He's kind of similar to when you look at Vargas. I love both those guys, both their swings, because they don't move. That's effortless power where there's not everything that they have going on pre-swing, whatever it may be. By the time they are swinging, like they are swinging off that back leg, there's not a lot of movement. There's no forward movement, and they can keep themselves back if they're fooled, if there's a tough pitch. And he also toned down his whole pre-swing movement as well. Vargas is as quiet as it gets. He quieted things down a ton. And I think we saw the same thing with Pages. Both those guys, they've figured out their swings, and it's more about approach. I think Vargas already figured it out, and I think Pages is going to continue to iron out that approach and be a really, really good ball player. That's a guy I'm looking at. Jack, would you be surprised if he's a top 30 prospect in baseball by next year's end?
No, absolutely not. If he keeps the walk rate where it is in double A, or it drops, but not past 10%. Like, I think if this guy has an 100-point jump from batting average to OBP, and he's still pumping out 25 to 30 bombs in Tulsa next year, he's a top 30 prospect in baseball because of how good the tools are and how mature the approach is at such a young age.
Did you see him throw at all?
Yeah. He's got an arm.
He's got an arm, dude, too. I was going to say, well, what's the word on the arm? Because, that's the one where I did outsource. I saw some throws, but I don't like to, I hate grading outfield arms unless I'm in person. There's just like a different level of carry that you want to be able to see in person. So that's why we don't really do like outfield arm grades. I'll say if I think he has a big arm, that's a guy that I'm seeing consensus plus to plus grades on the arm. What did you see there from that rocket?
I saw a possible really good right field big league arm. And that's awesome.
And above, he can run.
Yeah, if you've got a big body that's rangy, that can hit for power that right field now demands, and you have a good arm, I think he can be the right fielder for the LA Dodgers in 2 years.
Does that sound like Aaron Judge a little bit?
Yes, he's obviously not the Goliath build that Judge is.
I know,
he doesn't look like Rob Gronkowski. But you know what? It is it's Jack Peterson. It's Jack Peterson with a little bit more bat to ball.
Okay. Yeah, because I look at it like, okay, yeah, he's not as big as him, but the production could be kind of similar. I don't think he's hitting 52 in his first season, but I'm talking about like the last couple of years. 30 to 35, surprisingly decent in the 260, 360, 370 kind of range, 540 slash line. It could be there. I don't think he's going to be Aaron Judge, but I think that's kind of the dream.
That is the dream. If you were to dream on Pages, it looks like Judge.
Yes, that's the dream. And I think Jock Peterson is a more likely outcome with more ability. And the tough part with a Peterson comp, always for me, is that he can't hit lefties. So it's like, we're not saying he can't hit lefties. I guess we're saying he's Jock Peterson against righties, like at all times, kind of.
Which is fringe all-star.
Yeah, which is legit fringe all-star. Coming in at number 5 is Ryan Pepio, who that's another guy that, this is where things get really, really tough. I think the top 4 was really easy ranking wise. I've seen Pepio higher. The command is the question for me. He's got your typical Bugs Bunny changeup at 88 miles an hour, which is the plus pitch. The fastball is nasty with tons of life at 96 to 97 miles an hour, 24 to 2,500 RPMs and crazy arm side run. I've talked to some minor league guys, Jack, this simple. I talked to guys, and the amount of times I've heard Ryan Pepio was my most difficult AB, at least a handful from upper level minor league guys who I think are phenomenal hitters. He's disgusting, but is he sticking in a rotation? Is he starting? That's the question. That's what kind of impacts the ranking here.
And my answer is no at the moment. Can he change my mind? Sure. Absolutely. And do I love the fastball changeup combo from a starter? Yeah. Marco Estrada with an 88 mile an hour fastball survived like 12 years in Major League Baseball. This guy's 97 with an 88 mile an hour changeup. That's so much better than Estrada already. And this changeup comes up and it's already the best changeup on the Dodgers. So like Pepio, here's the thing with Pepio. The ERA across like 40 innings in AAA was really high because he couldn't throw strikes. And there were times where the only chance he had to throw strikes was to shelve command entirely and just go with control. And it's like, okay, I got to throw my fastball over the plate and then my changeup over the plate and hope guys don't barrel it. And in AAA, guys barrel that because they are a step away from Major League Baseball. I need to see him be successful in AAA as a starter and go 5 innings, 6 innings for me to think that he can be a big league starter. Because right now, I just think he can be a really good reliever.
I'm with you. I think there's still hope, of course, but you hit the nail on the head. I mean, he had 21 walks in 42 and 2/3 innings, 12 bombs as well. I mean, this is a guy that
I'm telling you, when you don't have command, you have to just go with control. And when you go with control, you're leaving you're leaving belt high fastballs, middle, and guys are going to send that to the moon in AAA.
I mean, we saw it with Hunter Green. Hunter Green was giving up bombs to quadruple A guys because he was leaving 102 up. Even quadruple A guys, if they know 102 up is coming, they're going to hit 102 elevated. They'll make it happen. And that's kind of what we saw with Pepio. I think what's interesting about him, though, is the fastball changeup combinations enough to make him a legit lights out back end reliever. He's still relatively young at 24 years old. He'll probably start the year in AAA, continue to work through some of those things, work through the command issues, and we'll see if he can develop that slider a little bit more as that third pitch. To me, fastball changeup, Fernando Rodney type of back end reliever, I think is what we could see. Which makes it kind of hard to rank him ahead of certain guys at this point. And there's a scenario, I think, in this update where we're lower on him than others. He's a guy that seems like he's in a lot of top 100 lists. For me, I don't know if he cracks our top 100, frankly. And I'm looking at the Michael Bushes. I'm looking at the Eddys Leonards of the world. And I think they might have him beat in this top 10 update.
Yeah, I'm with you. Didn't he just sign with Boris as well during the lockout?
Yeah, he did sign with Boris.
I think Pepio's a Boris guy.
Boris guy.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like if you were to change one thing, if you only had one bullet that you could change in this top 10, I think it would be flipping 5 and 6. I think Michael Busch is a better prospect than Ryan Pepio.
I agree at this point. Just because what you're going to get out of Michael Busch, which is, I think, a really high floor power bat who's going to get on base at a good clip. I always talk about how Michael Busch reminds me a bit of Max Muncy. He's like a Max Muncy light because he can hit for power from the left side. He can play second base and first base. I think I would say Muncy's a little bit better defensively and obviously has more offensive upside, but there's like a Max Muncy light here. Busch is super patient at the plate, is going to walk a ton. And I really do believe in the power. He's going to be a good piece for them. I think he can be big league ready this coming year. Whereas if Pepio's limited to a reliever, he's got to be like a lights out closer to match what you're going to get out of Michael Busch in the WAR department with what he's able to do. So yeah, I think we're flip-flopping Busch and Pepio in this update.
Call me crazy. I think the same way that Yankee fans were dreaming on Didi Gregorius hitting from the left side is the same way that Dodgers fans can dream on Michael Busch hitting from the left side, where you can pull the shit out of the ball and hit it to the moon, but you can also spray it around a teensy bit. Didi never truly panned out in that mold. I think Busch can truly pan out in that mold. He can be that sturdy, everyday second baseman that pumps 20 to 25 bombs out.
I agree. And he can also, like he's a guy that even when he's not swinging it is going to get on base at a good clip. He is so patient. Like people look at the strikeout rate. The strikeout rate just because he goes so deep into counts. He's just super patient. I think that's something that it's a line to toe. He doesn't chase very much, honestly. And that's something that I think he's going to see a lot of pitches. He's going to get his, and he's going to be able to hit you for power. I think he's going to be a great. I wish he could play a little bit of third. That was something I think that would really change, but a lot of things in his outlook. But like you said, the floor is so high offensively. He's already proven that he can swing it in the upper levels. This is a dude that's going to be up and I think can help them pretty soon. And I wonder if he's somebody that's expendable or if we see that make one of their middle infielders expendable at the big league level. Should be very interesting because they also have guys like Eddys Leonard, who I think is also in this conversation as well. Is potentially being able to slot into this spot as a top 6 prospect in the system as well. What do you think there? Because that's a name that's not on this list entirely that I think is starting to pick up a lot of steam.
Yeah, I saw him thrash in low A and high A. I mean, Eddys Leonard was very, very good this year, and he's got good bat to ball. He's got good pop. He's a middle infielder. My question for Andrew Friedman would be, Gavin Lux, Michael Busch, Eddys Leonard. Trade one of them. Who are you trading? And I think the answer is Lux right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But is Lux? I don't even know if teams want Lux as much as they'd want Leonard at this point. Is that crazy to say?
It's tough. I don't know because like you and I think are both out on Lux, right?
Yeah, I think he can be an okay regular. Like I think he can be an above average regular if he can figure out how to hit lefties. He's fast, he's versatile, but he's not your everyday shortstop that was one time the hope.
Lux had what? It was a 30 homer season in Oklahoma City. In AAA,
he feasted in the PCL, right?
He feasted, absolutely feasted. But it doesn't look like he can feast anymore, and we don't know what he's going to be defensively. Yeah. Leonard plays fine defense. He had a 145 WRC plus in 66 games in low A. He comes up, plays 41 games in high A. Wouldn't you know, he had a 145 WRC plus. The level's not the problem with Leonard. Nothing's the problem with Leonard right now. It is a matter of time. If he comes up, if he starts the year either in high A again or in double A, and it hits to a 145 WRC plus, then you got to dump Lux because you've got Busch knocking on the door and you've got Leonard looking like the second baseman of the future.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I think at some point you got to start looking at that. And especially just because you're going to have Vargas as another infielder potentially as well. Like they've got enough dudes in the infield. I think that there's a chance we see Lux get dumped. And I think it's going to have to be the right spot. Somebody else that's not too far away is Yorbit Vivas, who could also play second base and third base. So they have plenty of infielders that I think are in the fold at this point that are all going to be double A or mid-season double A and climbing from there in terms of their trajectory and their development. The last thing I'll say on Leonard is, I mean, you look at the promotion from low A to high A, which is a big one for young players. Strikeout rate drops by about a percent and change. The contact rate jumped. The power was consistent. Is this a guy that should be up there instead of Michael Busch? Or if not, is he ahead of Pepio as well?
He could be ahead of Pepio. Not ahead of Busch yet. I think if I had final say, I would go Busch 5, Leonard 6, Pepio 7.
it's going to be something like that. And I think it's probably going to be that, frankly. I think I agree. I try to poke some holes in Busch. The only hole I can really poke is defensively. But I think he's good enough to be able to hold his own. And, if you have to move him to first, you move him to first. The bat's going to translate there. Leonard's upside is way higher. But, I mean, we could also see him struggle at the AA level, and that kind of shifts things. And we're like, okay, well, we already know that Michael Busch can swing in a AA. So yeah. I think that's kind of one of the things that's holding it back. But the more I watch of Leonard, because that's a guy I have just not seen as much of, there's a chance that I watch more of him as we continue to make the final say on some of these updates. And I end up liking him a little bit more than Busch. I think it's more about just assessing what the risk looks like, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think defensively, the ceiling is higher for Leonard, but right now I'm not ready to say that Eddys Leonard is objectively a better defender than Michael Busch is right now.
No, we got to see. He probably will be, but we obviously have to see that. So I think that's something definitely to follow. Again, it gets interesting. Clayton Beater versus Landon Knack. Ultimately, what leads me to side with Landon Knack at the next spot is the fact that, which would be 8, is that Landon Knack just throws strikes. He's going to stick in a rotation. I really have no doubt that, like, Landon Knack is safe of a bet as you're going to find in this system to stick in a rotation. Whereas Clayton Beater screams reliever to me. Knack's got a good fastball. He's got an above average slider, and he's got an above average changeup, and he's got solid command. Like he's not going to ever be an ace, but I would almost surely say that he is going to be a middle of the rotation to back end of the rotation starter. And that's just more valuable than a reliever.
Yeah. So again, with starting pitchers, you don't see much at the lower levels with the Dodgers. I saw Beater and Knack throw multiple times this year. Beater, it was always, wow, this guy certainly has something here, but you don't really get to see it on full display because it's like, okay, yeah, like I see the fastball in spots. I see the slider in spots, like great, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Like he's a good college arm that, can develop more. With Knack, I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's outperforming the level at times. And it's throwing every pitch for strikes.
Can I use the word? What word am I going to use, Jack?
Pitchability.
Bang. Right?
There we go.
Like this is pitchability right here.
It is. I mean, you've got 55 fastball, 55 slider, changeup 50 to 55. Like he's got a 3-pitch mix and all 3 of them work.
Yeah, it's just that simple sometimes. And it's a good fastball though. It's not like he's throwing 91, 92. This isn't Nick Neidert. I mean, this is a guy that's throwing 94 to 96, grabbing a 7. The sliders in the mid 80s with good movement. The changeup is in the low 80s and has an interesting profile too. And all of them were effective. I want to see him stretched out, but there's no reason to believe that he will not, kind of like Bobby Miller, that he will not succeed when stretched out. Like it has nothing to do with his ability. The one thing I want to see on the heater is that he likes to run it up. And that's why, his changeup is a really good, really solid changeup. And that's how he sets it up. At times, leaves it over the middle. Guys know it's coming. That was the pitch he got burned on for the most home runs. I want to see how that continues to develop. But assuming he just continues to get better at hitting his spots, I mean, Landon Knack can play. I think he's kind of a no-brainer ahead of Beater, in my opinion, even though Beater's stuff is freaking ridiculous.
It is. To simplify it as far as I possibly can without sounding like a Neanderthal. There have been times over the last, however many years, I think since 2018, I was out on the half inning of a pitcher where they get 3 outs, innings over, and I'll take the headset off and I'll say, whoa, that was good. Like this kid's really good. On the Cape, I did it with George Kirby. That was the only guy I did it on the Cape with. Kirby closed out a game and I was like, holy shit, this kid is really good. In low A, I did it with Jackson Rutledge. I was like, oh my God. Like there are half innings here where it looks like he is better than anybody else on the field.
He shocked me with his struggles. I think he's still going to be good.
He's still going to be good. Knack did it to me. Bobby Miller did it to me this year. That was kind of it.
There you go. I mean, and that says something. Like that really does say something because there is just that instinctual, just like this guy can throw. And when I was on the Cape offensively, it was after a couple games seeing Nick Gonzalez. That was a guy that I just was like, okay, this guy's going to just put on a show this whole summer. I had no doubt. I would have taken a minus 500 bet after watching 3 games of Nick Gonzalez that he would have won Cape Player of the Year. Like there's just certain guys. Yeah, same with Torque for me. Same with Torque. I was blessed. I didn't get to see him as much as you, but I was blessed. I got to see him for a couple games in Chatham, and you just see the way he commands an at bat. There's just certain guys. Same thing on the mound. When they're at a level that either they're equal in age or even younger, and there's just this level of you use the word moxie sometimes, but like just the way they command the environment or the mound or the at bat, you can just tell it's basically their way of just kind of whipping their out and saying I'm better than all of you, and you can just kind of feel it. It's palpable. And I think that's just sometimes hard to put that into prospect rankings, but it matters. And that's where just kind of the feel part of this whole thing goes into it. But Beater, real quick, just to talk about him, because he's still a guy that I think he's someone that could probably skip up really quickly if they decide to say, hey, this guy's definitely just a reliever. Let's just start fast tracking him up here. He could be a really nasty one for them. I think in short spurts can reach up to 96, 97, touch a 98. The slider and curveball are outrageously gross. The curveball, the better pitch, really just bites, falls off the table. The problem is when you have a curveball that breaks that much, it's hard to throw it for a strike. And he's forced to locate the slider and the fastball a bit more. It doesn't go to the slider that much. And the fastball is lively, but as we know, you can't just go to fastball too heavily. It's got that rising action. I think he's going to be a nasty back, and he could end up being a really good closer. I really think Beater could end up being a closer. I have more hope in Pepio sticking in a rotation. I think Beater's all but relegated to the bullpen. I hate to say relegated because he's going to be really darn good there. He struck out 36% of hitters between high A and double A. The stuff is just that good.
Yeah, it's just what do you value more, right? A high end 4, middle end 3, or a good setup guy?
Exactly. And it's the former. It's absolutely the former. So going into number 9 here, this is an interesting guy because I think he's old, relatively old. He's 25. Andre Jackson going on 26, but Jackson's really interesting to me as a swing man type that can do a little bit of everything. I think has the floor of a good reliever, but right now he's towing the line with his arsenal. I think if he goes to being a reliever, it's going to be a little bit more focusing on 2 pitches. Right now, he's got 4 that all show average or better, but I don't think he knows what he trusts and which pitches he really wants to work with the most. I personally like the fastball and the changeup the most. He's mixed in a cutter. He's mixed in a curveball. We saw him in certain spots stretched out a little bit, even at the big league level. We also saw him relieve at times at the big league level. He was really good in the lower minor or in double A last year, struggled a bit in triple A, struggled a bit in the majors. He's a tough case.
He's tough. If you were to play the role of Dave Roberts and look at Andre Jackson, what do you see?
I see a really athletic pitcher with a ton of potential that I think is still trying to figure out exactly what he is, right? Like I almost want to see him try it as a starter because I think the arsenal could work. I see a swing man here though, really. I do. If he can adapt to that role, I see a swing man. I see middle relief, stretch him out for 3 or 4. I see a spot starter that can give you a good 5 innings. And I could see a guy that you throw out there in the 6th or 7th for an inning and can be effective in higher effort situations. We can see him run it up to the mid 90s with good life. He has that changeup that really looks good when he's got it going. I think he can do a little bit of everything.
When I tell you, I'm so happy that the swing man is coming back to baseball.
It's much needed.
It's much needed. Role. Oh my God. Yusmeiro Petit was so fun. And now you've got swingmen that can throw 99.
Mm-hmm. That's the difference. You have swingmen that aren't just, it's because he's not good enough to be a back end reliever and he's not good enough to sit in the rotation. It's like, he could probably focus on one of those things and be good enough at it, but we actually value this role. And I think that's what it can be. I don't know if he's going to miss enough bats as that stretched out starter to be an everyday guy, but when you put him in short spurts and he can just ride that fastball changeup, it's pretty darn good. I just don't know how much faith I have in the cutter. I like him as a swing man. What are you thinking here with him? I think that's kind of the role. Does that make him a top 10 guy in the system? He might be someone that gets the push out here probably.
Yeah, he could get the bump. I think if I'm Dave Roberts and my starter goes 5, I go in through the nose, out through the mouth. I've got a really solid option to bridge the gap to the 8th. 6 and 7 are Andre Jackson's. If I'm operating with a 3-run lead, we'll keep it at least 2. Hopefully the offense can add a little bit. And then 8th and 9th, we can get to our back end guys. I think that's what Andre Jackson is. I think he's a 2-inning reliever that is pretty solid and a pretty comfortable option.
And if you have to spot start that guy, you're not mailing it in. You know, this isn't throwing up, you know, Vince Velasquez like the Padres were. Like, this guy could sit in your rotation for a few weeks or a month or 2 when, you know, your other dudes are out, and could be really fine. Like, could give you a nice 4-something ERA and give you competitive starts, and with a good offense gives you a shot to win. Jackson's a guy that I could see get traded to another team in a package because they want to try him out as a starter because he has that much intrigue. I mean, he was phenomenal in AA. The 5 ERA in AAA, it's difficult. I mean, you look at what Pepio did, you look at what some of these other guys, how they struggled. It was 6 home runs in 26 innings that really burned him. He got the swings and misses. He was still fine. Oklahoma City's a tough place to pitch. It's a good place to hit, as Gavin Lux showed us. And I think that was a little bit of the case there. Jackson's a good arm. We'll see if he gets bounced from the top 10. He's right on the edge, but he's still a really solid arm, and I'm a big fan of his. We have at number 10 here, Elise Rodriguez. And I'm not going to pretend like we know a ton about him because it's really just whatever you find on YouTube. But this is prime example. When you ask me who am I thinking about, how about this guy? In terms of $2.7 million in international free agency. And Jack, we do card segments on this podcast. Usually it's on the Friday episode, just a quick little teaser of a card segment. I look at eBay, what these Luis Rodriguez cards are going for on there. His cards are going for the same amount as many top 100 prospects. I think his cards might even be going for more than Andy Pages. Like, talk about the impact of multi-million dollar IFA guy. Like, here's Exhibit A.
I really don't know much about this guy, to be totally honest.
No, nobody does. And anyone who tells me they do, they're lying. So like the reason why I'm bringing him up is like, okay, I'm willing to rank him 10 or in an honorable mention because he's a $2.7 million guy that the Dodgers picked out. He showed some decent skills in terms of tools. Like he's one of those guys that in the early going looks like 50 to 55s across the board, but he doesn't excel at anything specifically. There's pressure on the hit tool for that reason. We don't know what the hit tool is going to completely look like. And people are shelling out $350, $400 for his card. Blows my freaking mind on that side of things. I will say that. On the baseball card side of things, what are we doing? We were talking about that on Cardboard Consultants, the other show that I host with our guys at Wild Cards Trading. And T and Kendall and I we were like, dude, I could go get like a really good prospect, like a really solid prospect for the amount of money that people are putting up for Luis Rodriguez. Look, if Rodriguez ends up being a top 50 prospect in baseball, I wouldn't be surprised because he was a $2.7 million IFA guy. But there's no reason for us to put him above any of the guys we just talked about because we haven't seen enough. And we are not going to go off of dollar amounts. We've made that very clear. We're not ranking prospects on dollar amounts because if history has shown us anything, dollars don't always translate to success.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem like he's the number 10 prospect in the Dodgers system right now just because the Dodgers handpicked him and it's like, okay, we're willing to shell for this guy. That's
literally the only reason. That's the singular only reason. I do like his swing, but I like a lot of people's swings. That's only so much of the equation. And he wasn't that great in rookie ball. 216, 326, 367 slash line, 31% K rate. I don't put a lot of stock into that stuff, but I mean, it doesn't help. A few other guys. I know the honorable mentions. This is where you thrive. This is where Jack McMullen flexes his muscles. I have one honorable mention that I told you about before we recorded that you didn't know, which I'm pumped about. But it was because he's an upper level guy already that you didn't cross paths with. That rakes and Ryan Noda. We'll get to him. I'm just going to give you the floor for your boy Hyun-Il Choi, who was the minor league pitcher of the year for the Dodgers, which is high praise because, I mean, the Dodgers have good arms. Hyun-Il Choi, Jack.
South Korean-born right-hander. I think he's only 22 years old still. He's got some time. He sits in the low 90s with his fastball. He can run it up to 94. He's got a hard breaking ball. It's like a slider curveball type. It's got a little bit more of that vertical drop, but slider type development. He's got a good changeup. He's just got so much command. You talk about pitchability. I mean, this guy did not walk anybody in low A. He comes up to high A. His high A debut came against Fort Wayne, and I watched him. And I want to say he threw 84 pitches, 71 were strikes.
I remember you texting me. I remember you texting me after that.
I texted. I was like, buy all the stock right now. Like, you want a card? Like, go get Hyunil.
He's got cards. He's got cards. People are very hesitant to invest in pitchers. But Hyunil Choi, like the thing is, you can get his cards for like probably a couple bucks, and he's if he's a big league arm, he's gonna hang around. I think he's gonna hang around, right? The question is he gonna miss enough bats, Jack? This is a 3-pitch pitchability guy as well, but the 3 pitches are not as good as Landon Knack's.
Okay, correct, but he doesn't miss his spots.
So it's all on the command.
It's all on the command. I don't see the command going anywhere with a guy that is as mechanically consistent as him. I mean, I could overlay all 84 pitches he threw in that outing, and he looks identical.
Yeah,
84 times.
That's huge. That's huge. And that's a guy that they've been a little bit more eager to stretch out, right? Like they're okay stretching him out a little bit
because
more.
He doesn't miss the zone. They're like, okay, if you're going to throw 70 pitches, that's 7 innings.
Yeah. And you know what? He was 91 to 93.
Yes.
I mean, if he can tick up to 92, 94, that'll play. The slider is 82 to 85. He has the changeup in the low 80s as well. I'd like to see a little bit more separation, or at least mix in a curveball a little bit more, just to steal strikes and give that other look. Because I think a guy like him, he's got to give you a 4th look every once in a while. He's got to mix things up a little bit. He's got to sprinkle in a little bit of chaos to be successful. But I think he's going to do that. He seems like a very cerebral pitcher, and he's in the right environment to help him kind of unlock everything. Back end starter, and could be a very solid one.
An incredibly high floor.
You want to know something disgusting? We haven't even talked about yet. We went through top 10 prospects, some honorable mentions, and whatever. We haven't even talked about the 2021 first-round pick by the LA Dodgers in Maddox Bruns.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous this system is. Maddox Bruns was the Alabama Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. I mean, nasty stuff from the left side. Another athletic pitcher. You can really see it on the mound. I haven't seen much of him because he was just drafted. He hasn't pitched in pro ball. But just looking at the mechanics, athletic, good stuff. Like we didn't even talk about their first-round pick yet this year. That's pretty nuts. And I think it's a testament to just, how good this system is. What about the other first-round pick from not too long ago as well, from a couple of years ago? Cody Hosey. What a disappointment. Yeah, because I watched him in the NECBL. He was wonderful. I mean, that's not the best competition in the world. After that, follows it up with the ridiculous year he had at Tulane. It was a bad year for Cody Hosey last year. I'm not saying give up on the guy, but I mean, this was a first-round pick that was among did he lead the nation in home runs? If not, he was top 3.
I think he did.
I looked at him. I was like, this guy is just a good bat to ball too. And then we see him in 59 games in Double-A, and he hits 2 home runs. And then he goes to the fall league, and he was not good either. It's time to get worried about Cody Hosey.
It is. Same way you would worry about who? As a White Sox fan, I like saying Berger in that, but Berger was dealing with injury. Hosey has just been dealing with underperformance. So
he was a little banged up, but I mean, dude, 188, 241, 245.
Okay, so they miss on one of like the 20 guys that we talk about.
But what I'm saying is the point is did they miss? Is he like,
I think they did.
Are we? Yeah. I mean, he got blown up by fastballs, which was the most concerning part. Like he was getting blown up by fastballs. And when you're getting Tulane's really good this year. They're always pretty decent, but they're not playing the SEC every day. They're not.
The American Athletic Conference is not a great baseball conference.
No. And then you said it. And you're right. And he's not facing 95, 96 day in and day out. And I think it was a little bit of a gap in the scouting here on Cody Hosey. And they went with the college bat and it just didn't work out. Honestly, they have been a little bit interesting with their recent draft picks. Jake Vogel, another one that, really fast, really athletic high school guy. I didn't like the pick then, and Vogel struggled a lot too. It's been interesting with some of the bats. They do well IFA bat wise, but draft wise, they've been really good in the past. I mean, they have one of the best draft classes we've ever seen. But some of those early picks the last couple of years, interesting. It'll be interesting to follow. Vogel's got plenty of time to figure things out too. And I think they were just going with a really good athlete there. But a lot of late round steals and a lot of other guys that I know you really like. Who else is on your mind?
Well, college bat that they might have somewhat hit on is Carson Taylor, switch hitting catcher out of Virginia Tech. He's got a little bit of pop in there. He's got some line drive power in there too, and his bat to ball is decent. He also is a very solid defensive catcher. We saw that at Vatech, and then we saw it at the lower levels of minor league baseball.
Yeah.
Higher, lower levels,
higher, lower.
High A, right?
Yeah.
So
I'd never heard anybody say that, but we can roll with that. Higher, lower.
But right, yeah. So let's say low A and high A. Carson Taylor was he was pretty solid, but high school draftee Brandon Lewis. We've talked about him cutting weight. I mean, this guy was checking in your 3 bills. He's down to around 250.
3 bills is crazy. The guy was a
monster. But he's got thump. I mean, he hit 30 bombs this year. He was top 10 in all of minor league baseball in home runs this year. Brandon Lewis can be, he's listed as a corner infielder. I think he's a first baseman DH. But when you hit 30, you hit 30. So I think Brandon Lewis can be that guy that hits 30 to 35 homers.
I'm with you. And like the pop is crazy. And as a guy that was, he was a 4th round pick in 2019, 285, 300 pounds as a high schooler is nuts. But I think just to see what he has done in early results, it's just a big dude that, again, I think people were scared of because you're like, okay, where do we stick him defensively? And he's almost 3 bills or it's 3 bills. But I mean, the bat is playing, and there's no reason to believe that the bat won't continue to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yorbit Vivas, another guy that I want to talk about. I like Vivas. Vivas is cut from a similar cloth to Eddys Leonard, where it's pretty solid bat to ball, some power, can play a bunch of different places on the field. What have you seen with Vivas, if anything?
What I like about Vivas is it's just high floor. I love having some high floor guys that can play all over the infield, that can put the bat on the ball. And, I think Leonard's got a higher ceiling, but Vivas has that higher floor. And I think a little bit more defensive ability outside of shortstop. I think that the fact Vivas probably can't play too much shortstop, that's the difference. But yeah. I like Vivas as the higher floor guy. Leonard could be legit top 50 prospect if he puts it all together. So that's kind of the difference. But Vivas to me seems higher floor, and I like that. How much of him did you see in person in high A?
I saw a decent amount of Vivas in high A, and I liked the swing a lot. I like the swing that is conducive to hard singles, doubles, and 15 to 20 homers.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised by the power output. I mean, when we saw that kind of take a hit in low or in high A, but yeah, I'm excited to see more Vivas. I think that's a guy that could continue to develop, and he outpunches his frame at 5'10", 170. He's probably a little bit heavier than that at this point, right? Like 180, but he still outpunches the frame. And he's young. He's only 21 and has had success. And guess how much he was signed for, Jack?
$300,000.
$300,000. That's the magic number for these guys. That is the magic number. But that's another guy, definite honorable mention for sure.
Perfect. Last guy that I want to mention is James Outman, who is speedy outfielder. He's a left-handed bat. Yeah, he's a left-handed bat. Good build. 6'3", 215. 21 for 23 in stolen bases in the front half in high A. They had the pickoff rule there, but listen, 21 bags is 21 bags, regardless of what umpires are enforcing on pitchers and their pickoff. The K rate was high for a guy that has middling to, maybe ever so slightly above average power. He was right around 30% with the K rate, but he walked a ton. And when you walk a ton, it can steal bases. I'm all for it. I'm okay if you strike out a little more than typical, but he hit 18 homers across high A and double A as a very athletic center fielder.
Yeah, as I say, he sticks in center, which takes some risk off the profile, right? Because if you can stick in center, You don't have to be as impactful of a power bat. He's not a guy that chases a ton. I want to see how he continues to develop, because Outman, he wasn't that good in college. Like, this is where the Dodgers feast. A West Coast Sac State guy, Sacramento State, was not that good. I think he was like a 250 hitter in college. They saw things that they liked. They saw the tools that they liked, and they took a chance on him. And he's been pretty darn good so far. When we had the interview with Anthony Mulrine, catching prospect with the Angels, who was just in the fall league, he said Outman was one of the guys that really stood out to him. Outman was a really impressive player. What I like about Outman is you look at the swing and miss. That's a little bit concerning, but he hits lefties. And that's what's really, really encouraging. OPS above 800 against both lefties and righties. That will continue to translate. And that tells me that the guy's got an ability to hit. So I think he still has to iron out some approach things. But if you have a hole in your swing or something, that's usually exposed more left on left. And that's a part of the reason why you'll see, a higher K rate. He's fine against lefties. So I think he's going to continue to work it out. And this guy could be a pretty solid center fielder. I don't know if it's with the Dodgers. This could be another trade piece for them. But Outman, if he gets off to a good start again this year, he was good in Double-A. He produced. If he's good in Double-A or Triple-A this coming season, probably a trade piece, and one that, I think is a pretty decent piece to be able to package as a second or third asset in a deal.
They can go win right now, and they are set up well to win over the next 10 years.
Yeah. And welcome to the world of the Dodgers. Another name, Willman Diaz, not too much on him, but when it comes to rookie ball guys that I've seen the tools stand out a little bit more with Diaz as a shortstop. And then Ryan Noda. I was telling you about it. Ryan Noda has done nothing but hit his entire minor league career, whether it was with Toronto, now with the Dodgers. Absolutely is just raked at every single level. Ryan Noda is somebody that I just don't know why he doesn't get more love. I mean, the WRC plus, I think in his minor league career has to be like 160 at this point. He hit 29 jacks last year. He's done absolutely everything at every level to just continue to mash. Probably more of a DH type, 15th round pick out of the University of Cincinnati. But the dude just crushes baseballs, and he did it again last year with 29 more jacks at the Double-A level.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Ryan Noda. Again, I'm telling you, I know nothing about Ryan Noda, but you know what? If you like him and he constantly mashes, I've got his Fangraphs page up right now. Here for it. Let's go.
411 on base, 69 homers. Oh, wait, that's kind of funny. 69 homers in 420 minor league games.
Update for you 4 minutes ago from John Heyman. The Minnesota Twins, back in need of a shortstop and with money to spend, have checked in on Trevor Story. You were on that, Aram.
Hey, there we go. It just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. I don't want this to be lost on you, though. 69 homers in 420 professional games for Ryan Noda.
No way.
Yeah.
For Noda?
69 and 420.
I think he's my new favorite player. Sorry, Eddie Adrian.
Sliding into 10 here.
Maybe.
He's good, man. He is pretty nice with it. So Noda, though, legitimately is a name to watch. 25 years old, probably going to be 26 by the time the season starts. But these University of Cincinnati guys can swing it. Guest of the call-up podcast before, Joey Weimer, another dude that can freaking swing it. Might have to ask him about Noda next time we talk. But the guy can play. He was also a Brewster Whitecap, by the way. He just predated you in 2016. But hit 5 jacks for
Earth.
Brewster. Come on. You don't know Ryan Noda. He's a sneaky guy here. Sneaky guy.
My bad, guys.
No one in the world knows who Ryan Noda is. But they will soon. That's a guy that I think might end up kind of slotting in. I was shocked at some of the players that broke through for the Dodgers last year. So Noda could be one of those guys. But Twins, please go sign Trevor Story. That'd be cool. I'm loving this fake competition that we're seeing from some of these teams. The Nationals really gearing up with Anibal Sanchez, Aaron Sanchez, Nelson Cruz. A lot of good deals. Well, we're going to see some trades.
Adrianza.
We're going to see some trades go down too. I'm going to talk about some of these deals on Friday, but definitely you and I will be talking about some of ththese deals on Monday as well. We talked about it on the Just Baseball show. So for those that are looking for some prospect analysis, the deals weren't that deep. So like we weren't going to spend a whole episode on Chase Petty, but we did talk about him on the Just Baseball show and some of the trades that we saw already. So if you want to hear a little bit about the prospect trades, go check out the most recent episode of the JB show that also came out today. But for the blockbuster trades, you can expect us to be breaking down the prospect returns as well on here, as well as the Just Baseball show. With the free agency frenzy, definitely balance between, and trade frenzy now, between these two shows, as well as our free agency thread and trade thread, and just hot stove thread that we got going on at the website over at justbaseball.com as well. Jack, any final thoughts on this Dodgers system?
It's deep. There's some top end talent here. They got rid of the top end talent with Ruiz in the Turner and Scherzer deal, but I am lower on Ruiz than a lot of people typically are. And I think that Bobby Miller is a top 50 prospect in baseball. I understand that people are low. That is not his fault. That's the Dodgers' fault for not throwing him more than 70 pitches. Bobby Miller has top flight, top of the rotation type stuff. Cortaya is a phenomenal lottery ticket. I'd buy that lottery ticket over a lot of others. And then you've just got a bunch of pure hitters scattered around this top 10 and honorable mentions.
And then a bunch of other really talented arms. And then, it's just crazy. Eddys Leonard, probably the biggest name to watch, I'd say, moving forward in this system, as a guy that could just kind of leapfrog from where he was, us debating if he fits in the back end or in the middle, to like, wow, why did we ever debate that type of thing? Wouldn't be surprised to see Leonard make that jump. Vivas, probably not as much helium, but another guy that could comfortably be in the top 10 very, very soon. That's it for this system. Another interesting update. And by the next time we talk, hopefully the top 100 will be done. I've been just absolutely grinding through this thing and making a lot of progress. So very excited to finalize that quite soon. The Dodgers system as a whole, some of these guys in the back end have been some difficult decisions for me as to whether they crack it. Michael Busch, Ryan Pepio, those are all names that'll be considered at the back end that we'll have to really think about. Even Eddys Leonard at this point. I think is worth thinking about. And obviously that will translate into how we power rank those guys in this update for the Dodger system as well. As always, thank you for listening. We'll have another system for you on Monday, or it could be a top 100 breakdown, depending on how quickly I can fly through this thing. Speaking of fly, I'm going to go drive relatively quickly, but still within the range of the speed limit, over to Jupiter to go see Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, and Marlins prospects square off against each other. So I'm going to go do that now. I'll have some video and some information and some write-ups on those guys, and we'll talk about that for sure in the next episode, Jack, because I'm about to see the muscle hamster in Francisco Alvarez.
I love that.
So sick. So sick. He's actually going to hit a ball about 400 feet. If he doesn't, I'm going to be pissed, because that's viral. Instant viral video right there.
Instant viral.
Instant viral. Jason Dominguez can pop up straight in the air and it's viral too. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for listening. We'll talk prospects with you on Wednesday.